Thank you so much once again for being with us this early morning. It is raining out there, but it won't stop our conversation about some of the diseases that concern us here in Uganda. I am Viola Ksasya, and this is NTV Medical Matters, supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. What you just saw on the screen is a recap of what we talked about in our maiden episode, and that was sickle cell disease, which has a high burden in Uganda. And you can please go back to our social media and be able to follow up the conversation, as well as some of what the expert was talking about. Today we are joined by an expert that is going to be talking about Down syndrome in Uganda, which is another burden among us young children as well as adults. And she is a pediatrician associate consultant, and she works with the Department of Pediatrics and Child Health at Mulago National Referral Hospital. Her name is Lucy Amaniyo Muchibi. I just really wanted to get that right. Doctor, you are welcome to studio, and it's really nice to have you.
Thank you so much, Viola. It's really nice to be here.
Awesome. So let's start off, Dr. Lucy, with Down syndrome. Just broadly explain to us what is it and what really causes Down syndrome.
Okay, so Down syndrome is a genetic disease, just like the disease you talked about last week. The sickle cell anemia is also a genetic disease. So these are groups of diseases that come about when there is something that goes wrong during the genetic mix-up. So as humans, we have what we call chromosomes in our cells. If you remember your biology, you have cells that build tissues, that then build organs, and then you have a whole human being. So inside those cells, you're supposed to have 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs making 46. Now in Down syndrome, on the 21st location, so that chromosome number 21 has 3 instead of 2. So instead of having a pair, you have 3. So that's why the other name for Down syndrome is trisomy 21. So it's a genetic disease which comes about when there's a problem during the mix-up, the conception, when the cells and tissues are being formed. And each cell is supposed to have 46. So in children and adults with Down syndrome, instead of having 46 chromosomes in each cell, they have 47 in each cell. Yeah.
And that's really interesting. So is there a way that you can find out your child will be having Down syndrome before, maybe at conception or before birth?
So yes, there are ways that you can find out. We have what we call invasive techniques, then we have the non-invasive techniques. So you can do an ultrasound scan, which many people do during pregnancy to find out, you know, the sex of the child, if the organs have formed well. So during the ultrasound scan, they can be able to tell that there is a problem, that this child will most likely have Down syndrome. Then we also have invasive techniques like whereby they take a sample of the amniotic fluid, that fluid that bathes the baby, and they do certain tests that look at hormones. So there are about 3 diseases that have certain hormones like estradiol, estrol, and the alpha-fetoprotein. So they change, some are high, some are low. So in Down syndrome, we can be able to tell that this child is probably going to have Down syndrome. And those are the prenatal tests that are done. And there's another one called the chorionic villus sampling. I didn't want to use too many big medical words, but basically they just take a sample of the placenta and check whether this child will most likely have Down syndrome. And in the more developed world, they're able to do those tests even as early as the first 12 weeks and then give you the option on how to proceed, whether you want to go ahead to have this baby or not. Yeah.
Would you say that the mother's lifestyle could also be affecting children before they're born, the babies? Could the mother's lifestyle really be important in this case in forming Down syndrome?
So actually with Down syndrome, the only huge risk factor we see is the maternal age. So women who are more than 35 years of age at the time of conception are at a higher risk of having a child with Down syndrome. But we've seen people who are 40, 50 having children who are not born with Down syndrome. So the age just really increases the risk, but it doesn't cause the disease. Like I said, it's a genetic disease, and there is nothing you can do to prevent it. Even if you ate a whole bucket of vegetables during your pregnancy, even if you, whatever you do, it's a genetic disease. And right now, as science tries to understand more about Down syndrome, maybe in the future we'll find other risk factors that can be preventable. But as of now, the major risk factor is the maternal age. And of course, other things like taking folic acid, avoiding smoking, avoiding alcohol. But these are just generally to make you have a good pregnancy. They're not directly going to prevent you from having Down syndrome. But let me just say this as well, that when you take folic acid, you prevent other conditions that we call neurotube defects, which include things like meaning spina bifida in a non-medical term, whereby the children are born, here with the back with an exposed neurotube, something like that. They are neurological conditions. But for Down syndrome, the really well-known risk factor is the maternal age.
We have a video about, we have a case study of that same disease, and we shall be playing that video later. But before we do that, I just want to remind our viewers that we are going to open the phone lines later, so you should be able to ask Dr. Lucy all the questions that you have. I'm sure she's preparing her mind and will be able to answer these questions. Yeah. Otherwise, I just wanted to know whether, do you think it's hereditary as well?
So there are 3 types of Down syndrome. First of all, we have 3 causes of Down syndrome. So we have the trisomy 21, which I talked about, which accounts for about 95%. But sometimes this chromosome at 21 goes to another place, what we call translocation. So instead of staying where it's supposed to be, it decides to go and attach itself to another chromosome, and that usually accounts for about 4% of the Down syndrome. Then we have what we call the mosaic Down syndrome. So the mosaic Down syndrome, some cells have 46, some have 47. So these children usually have a milder form of Down syndrome, and we sometimes see it in younger mothers. So you find a mother who is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, who you do not expect to have Down syndrome because of their age. You find them getting Down syndrome, and usually they give birth to the mosaic type of Down syndrome. So coming back to the question that you have asked me, so yes, if there is a family history of Down syndrome, then the likelihood, the risk for having a child with Down syndrome increases. And if you yourself, you have Down syndrome and you decide, yes, I want to have children, the chance that you're going to have a child with Down syndrome is 50%, between 40 to 50%. So it's really, really high that you're going to get a child with Down syndrome. But unlike many genetic diseases, Down syndrome is not like autosomal recessive or autosomal dominant, like the sickle cell that we had, meaning that it runs in the family. No, Down syndrome usually is what we call a de novo mutation. It just happens. Yes.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Lucy. We are going to talk about whether Down syndrome can be reversed, especially if you find out before you've given birth. But before we do that, let's take a look at some of our case study that we had to do out there in the field about Down syndrome. Please observe and make sure you have your questions for when we are able to talk to you later. The phone numbers are on the screen and you're able to call back. Hello there, it's the NTV Medical Matters. I am Viola Sasira. Today we are meeting Nalongo Angela Sonia Nasuna, a mother of two lovely boys. They are twins. Waswa Musasizi Abubakar is living with Down syndrome and the brother Kato is living just fine. Yes, this is possible. And our aim today is to create awareness as well as acceptance of Down syndrome. Come with me, let's meet the twins. Oh, hey. Good to meet you. Hi,
Nice
so
to see
where is this is Waswa.
Waswa, yeah.
Hey Waswa, come to auntie. Oh, how are you? Ooh, let's do a dance. Don't run away. Let's talk about Waswa.
Yeah.
When did you realize that Waswa had the condition of Down syndrome?
When I gave birth to Waswa and Kato, Waswa had a complication. His belly, he got abdominal swelling of the belly. We didn't know the cause, so the doctors there in the nursery asked me to go and do a scan. Okay. So I went and did, not even a scan, an x-ray. Yes. I did the x-ray. They told me the baby had the distension of the stomach. They discharged me and they referred me to Mulago. The doctor who was working on us, Dr. Nanteza, told me, but this baby has signs of Downs. Do you know Downs? I was like, what's that? She told me, don't you see people that in your home area that has Downs? Because she told me like in Uganda it's Mongo.
Okay.
Then I told her no. Then she asked my mom. My mom said yes, she knows. Then she told me, you can search on the internet, you will see what I'm meaning. She didn't explain more. Then when I came and searched, I saw the features they told me the boy has, and I saw it was a condition, not even a disease, that
that can get cured.
It's going to be cured.
Yes.
I saw that my baby is going to live with the condition all his life. I felt very sad. But and again, I knew I had a family behind me. I had my mother supporting me, and as well as my husband, because he was there. Because he would have chosen to run away.
Oh yes,
yes,
they do.
But he has been there.
What was it like for you, the mother at the time, Waswa's mother, in that state of confusion, pain, and how did you come to acceptance?
No, when I was told about those news, I really got sad. I even when I'm alone, I asked God, why me? You gave me these two bundles of joy. You gave me, like, people really want to have twins. You gave me twins.
Yeah.
But why did you give me one that is not actually? I used to call him not normal.
Oh.
Yes, he's not normal like the other twin. But then I finally accepted. That's what God has given me. He knew when he was giving me. He knew that I have the courage to raise awareness among other.
Yes.
I will have that boldness to raise awareness among other parents who have such children. Yes. So I decided to accept it in my heart that this is what God has given me.
Okay, so let's talk about the differences between the twins. What are some of the capabilities that Kato has, that also Waswa has, that the other may not have?
Kato, right now they are 1 year and 4 months probably. Kato walks, can run, can start babbling, like what's because he says when you call him, he responds, says wanji or banji, like so something of the sort. But right now Waswa is just crawling and standing on things, walking on things, like that, of which people believe they would have been on the same pace.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah, right now Kato you can tell Kato, give me something, whether in Uganda or English, and you tell him, Kato, give me something, definitely he's going to come and bring it to you. Of which, if you give Waswa something and tell him, give me, he's going to say it with himself. Because the doctor told me, they may be of the same age, but in the mind, this one either is back, is 3 months back from him. Yes. When you tell someone these are twins, they will probably say that. You see, Waswa's head is a little bit tiny, small.
Absolutely.
Another one is big. This one has hair. This one has some part of the hair. Yes. Yeah. He has big ears. So children with Downs, have small ears.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about WASWA's interventions. Talk about therapy, treatment.
So right now with physiotherapy, we almost got done. So we are now hoping for speech and language that pushes these children forward. They will, like how to learn how to speak with people, because they won't speak as. Because WASWA right now, you may say ta 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 wala wala.
I heard it make sounds earlier.
Sounds, but you cannot speak like WASWA.
Yes.
Unless it's given that kind of.
Like Kato. Yes.
Yeah, sorry. But he has to get with that speech and language therapy, of which we are hoping to start this month. So I want to raise awareness by letting the mothers of the nation and the fathers of the nation know that these children need love and support. And you want the child will need love and support from both parents. So I want to let the world know that these children are children. Yes. They are all the same. They have different capabilities, different personalities. They are all children. If you love them equally, if you show them love equally, and that love has to be from both parents. Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Nalongo. Oh, let me call WASWA for one more time. It's good to meet you, WASWA. He's tired. I think he just wants his mom. Well, so okay, let's go to mommy.
They are kind of like that, eh?
NTV Medical Matters, we just watched a case of Down syndrome. That is Nalongo Angela and her twins. The elder twin is suffering from Down syndrome and the younger one is just fine. So my question to Dr. Lucy starting off would be, why would twins who are, you know, born at the same time be, one is safe, one is not safe? What causes that?
All right, so when you have twins, they could come from the same what you call, they could be monozygotic or dizygotic, meaning they're coming from the same zygote or from two different. So that's why you have like the fraternal twins, the ones who don't look alike and the ones who are really, really alike. So when they come from the same zygote, if they have Down syndrome, they'll both have. But if they are coming from different, they have different genetic material in each cell, then you can have that condition whereby one has only 46 while the other one has an extra chromosome and has 47 and has Down syndrome. Yes.
Okay, so before we watch the video, we're talking about how to reverse the condition once you find out before giving birth.
So unfortunately, Down syndrome is not one of the conditions that can be reversed. Once it's discovered that you're going to have a child with Down syndrome, you just kuguma.
Yes.
So you're just prepared mentally. So counseling and.
Dr. Lucy, I'll interrupt you. We have a caller. NTV Medical Matters. What's your name and your question? We shall get back to the caller, but he's through. What's your name and what's your question?
This is Mohammed from Global.
Yes, Mohammed, what's your question?
Madam, I'm very sorry, but I could have a question.
Okay.
But the only one thing
yes, please.
I'm raising is to reverse that person now suffering of Down syndrome. The only advice I'd like to give out to parents who are outside that way is that whenever you see such a problem in your children, just feel free and open. Why don't what you call love and children? So that you make together, you make your family happy. And if there are ways to get back to children, both remain strong. So, Madam, I appreciate you as NTV sector. Thank you very much for those gifts and for that. Also, we are the one here. Thank you very much, and may God bless you too.
God bless you too. Thank you so much, Mohammed. That's really wonderful, and especially coming from a man. You're welcome. Especially coming from a man, it makes a lot of sense, as I had most of the mothers saying, please don't run away, even with the other sicknesses, you know. So we were talking about not being able to reverse the condition, and I think that is something that is very important for the mothers and fathers out there. The condition is non-reversible. However, you can seek counseling, therapy, and just stay home, just as Mohammed advised, to make your family happy. So let's talk about signs and symptoms. What's the most obvious at birth?
So Down syndrome has mainly 3 hallmarks. So we have the trisomy 21, which presents with characteristic features, and these include facial features like you saw on Waswa. So most times they have small ears, and these ears are what you call low set. So if you were to draw a line from your own ear, from the corner of your eye to your ear, you'd meet at least a third of your ear would be above that line.
Yes.
But for children with Down syndrome, the whole ear is below. So we call those low set ears. They are lower than they should be, and they are small. They're small. Then they have these upward going eyes, and what we call a flat nasal bridge. And sometimes they have thickening at the back, like extra folds at the back of the neck.
Yes.
And they also have in their hands, if you looked at your hands, you have maybe like 3 or 4 creases. So for them, they have 1. They have like what you call a single palmar crease. Okay. So those are some of the most common facial features. And then we also have what you call hypotonia, meaning they're balebeda. They are so like floppy. They're not strong, they're not firm. And then the third thing is mental retardation, which we now call intellectual disability. So those are the 3 hallmarks of Down syndrome. But in addition, these children have what we call associated conditions, so that usually accompany the Down syndrome. And one of these is the heart disease. So sometimes they have a conditions called AV canal defects, and many times these children actually end up being seen by the cardiologists. Sometimes they end up getting surgery. So heart defects are very, very common among children with Down syndrome. Then they sometimes have behavioral problems. So you might find that they could have autism. Sometimes they are very, very difficult children. They are very stubborn. They don't listen. So the mothers are always, yes, mothers are always shouting generally, but mothers are shouting more with children with Down syndrome because they are very, very stubborn. Yes. Then they have, in addition to the intellectual disability, they have growth delay. So like you saw Kato and Waswa, they are born at the same time, but Waswa is taller. So they have growth delays. They grow more slowly than their counterparts. And then because of the intellectual disability, they develop more slowly as well. So they may crawl like at a year, they may walk at 2.5 years, they may speak at 4 years. So they also have speech delay, they have language delay. Sometimes they have defective social interaction, which happens in autism, but it might be just singular, just a defective. They don't know how to interact in social environments. So those are the main things. But the good thing is that these children are always so happy. It's so nice. Okay, nice for us when you're interacting with these children. They're so happy. They're always smiling. And they're very, very open. Once they get to know you, they become very friendly. Yeah, so those are the things that I would say. But usually once you see one child with Down syndrome, it's very easy for you to see, because they have a characteristic face of whatever race they are, be them Africans, Europeans, Americans, Hispanics, whatever race, they have a characteristic look that comes from the trisomy 21 defect. So for us as the medical workers, once you see that child, and since it's the commonest, it's one of the most common chromosome abnormalities. So many medical workers have come to interact with children with Down syndrome either through their medical training or during internship or when they're working. So it's one of the most commonly diagnosed conditions.
Oh, that's really nice. Thank you so much for that detail. At least we know the signs and symptoms. But if you are just joining us, you're watching NTV Medical Matters, supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we have Dr. Lucy Amanio Muchibi in studio with us, who is a pediatrician at Mulago National Referral Hospital. I am Viola Sasia. We continue with the conversation, and we just want to let you know that the phone lines are open. The numbers are right there on your screen. You can call in and give us your thoughts as well as questions. Also, head over to social media and let us know what you think about Down syndrome, but anything else you might want us to discuss here on NTV Medical Matters the next time we are here. So Dr. Lucy, let's continue with our conversation, and now we look at what does an extreme case of Down syndrome look like?
So an extreme case would be someone who has severe intellectual disability and growth and developmental delays, and having the congenital heart defects, and they're severely hypotonic, because the facial features are usually the same. They don't vary much, except with the mosaic type that I had talked to you about.
Dr. Lucy, let's talk to our caller.
Okay.
NTV Medical Matters, where are you calling from and what's your name? NTV Medical Matters, what's your name and what's your question? I believe we shall get back to him. So you were speaking about an extreme case of Down syndrome.
Yeah, so extreme would be severe intellectual and developmental delay, and this is one of the things that really stresses the parents, the fact that the child may not be able to do anything on their own. They may not be able to eat, feed themselves, they may not be able to walk, they are in a wheelchair, and also the intellectual disability, the speech delay. So those are the things that usually stress the parents. And I had Nalongo thanking her husband for staying. Because just like with many genetic diseases, I keep referring to sickle cell anemia that you had last week, most times when the fathers find out that the child has some kind of anomaly, some kind of problem, they're like, those ones don't happen in our clan. Huh? So
yeah.
Their first instinct is to run. Okay, their first instinct is to run, and unfortunately, I've seen fathers run, then they go like to a separate family, then they get the same illness, and then they can't run anywhere anymore.
Very tragic.
Yeah. So, but we thank the fathers for stay, because when children with Down syndrome and other congenital abnormalities are born, the mother and the whole family is affected, and sometimes it can lead to dysfunction, whereby the father goes away. Maybe the mother also, especially if it's a young mother, she's like, no, I did not sign up for this. Yeah. And she also abandons the child. So these children, in addition to all that I've talked about, can also be at risk of child abuse, because they have intellectual disability. They may not be able to ask for food. And for example, if they're left with someone else to take care of them, the person may deprive them of that food. And sometimes you find them being abused, being beaten. For example, they've soiled themselves. Someone is like, how can you? Then they,
we spoke with Nalongo Angela, and she told us that she could never get a house help because of her child. Exactly.
So you find most mothers staying home to take care of their own children, and of course that reduces the income of the household, and then you find problems coming. And so we thank the fathers who stay, we thank the parents who stay and take care of their children, and make sure that they raise them together.
Speaking about parents and caretakers of these children, what are they supposed to know? What should they know as they watch right now in order to give this child a happy life, at least in that condition?
So I'll keep referring to the video of Nalongo because it taught us a lot. She spoke about speech therapy. So usually the Center for Speech will close about 4, 5, 6 years. So it's very important that they try to engage these children with a speech therapist to help them catch up. Because remember, we talked about them having developmental delay and intellectual disability. So we want support. So that includes speech therapists, occupational therapists, who help them to achieve some kind of independence, to be able to dress up themselves, to be able to feed themselves, to be able to, you know, go to the toilet on their own. So speech therapists, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, like I talked about, the heart conditions. So inevitably, for every child who we come in contact with, if they've never had an echocardiogram done, an echocardiogram is like an ultrasound scan of the heart to see the chambers and everything. So we usually advise them to have that test done so that we rule out the fact that the heart has any abnormalities. And if it does, then we link them up with a cardiologist to make sure that is sorted out. So parents should know that these children are a gift from God. It was not some kind of mistake. They should know that this is not reversible. So they should love their child and connect them to all those extra amenities that are available so that they are able to live and thrive and achieve their fullest potential.
We shall pick up from there. The NTV Medical Matters will now take a short break. Stay with us, and when we return, we shall look at extreme cases, crises, and how those can be handled. Welcome back from that break, and thank you so much for staying with us this morning. I am Viola Sasira. This is NTV Medical Matters, supported by Bill and Melinda Gates. This is your safe space for everything health. We have Dr. Lucy Muchibi in studio with us, and we are talking about Down syndrome. Dr. Lucy, before we broke off, we're talking about the crisis that might arise at home and how best they can be handled. So please go ahead.
So children with Down syndrome don't get really like a crisis, but they can get complications, and some of these include constipation. They usually get constipation a lot, and they also get, commonly, they get upper respiratory tract infections. These include the common cold, rhinitis, so they can also get pneumonia frequently. And they can get, from the heart issues, they can end up with cardiac failure and what you call the TED spells. So maybe that's what I would call like a big crisis. When the child is having difficulty in breathing, they turn blue, and you have to rush them to the hospital. What I would advise parents out there is that, please, anytime your child gets any kind of illness, just take them to a pediatrician. Have a pediatrician that who can easily follow up. Bring them to the clinic. So in Mulago, we have a genetics and immunology clinic that runs every Wednesday from 9 to midday in Ward 15. And that's where we see the Down syndrome children from. And if they have any cardiac issues, there's a cardiac clinic. So primarily we see them from there, then we decide where they can go depending on whatever complication they have. So there's a cardiac clinic that runs on Thursday in the same space, Ward 15, Mulago National Referral Hospital. So that's where they can get help from and get diagnosed. If you have any child in the community that looks different, please send them to the clinic. We'll be able to diagnose what they have and see whether they need to see some other specialist, or if this is something that can actually be treated, if this is something that is permanent, and what kind of help you can get.
We shall be winding up soon, but I would like to end on a very positive note. So what are some of those hopes that are there for children with this condition, as well as adults? What can someone achieve in life with that kind of condition, or are they bound to stay like that?
So Down syndrome children can achieve just about anything they set their mind to. Given the intellectual disability that they have, they might have some challenges with grasping things. But like I told you, their life expectancy is very good. They live into their 60s, their 70s. The disease itself is not going to kill them. It's maybe the complications that come with it. For example, if they have a severe heart condition, those are the things that can reduce their life expectancy. But they can grow into adulthood, they can thrive. The only issue they may face is really the stigma from small-minded people who are like, you look different, you know. So I cannot employ you because people will be staring at you, you know. So those are some of the barriers that we aim to break. But Down syndrome children can achieve just about anything. And in terms of hopes, I know there are patient groups for Down syndrome. So the parents can reach out. There is one in Western Uganda called ROAN, and I know there's the Uganda Down Syndrome Society that went all the way to Parliament and petitioned for Down syndrome to be included in conversations like this. So there's a lot of hope. You're not alone. Reach out. I've realized that with chronic conditions, parents, when they meet with other parents, you know, it helps them, they share ideas. And actually even out there in the more developed world, it's the patient groups that advocate very much. We are doing our best as pediatricians, as people who look after these children with Down syndrome, but the patient groups are very, very key in lobbying and advocacy. Yes. So there are groups available in Uganda, and we can put these parents in touch with those groups. Yeah.
Giving us your parting shots, just also let us know what available treatments are there. Not like treatment as in getting healed, but the support. What are some of those, you know, things that can be done for such children to support them better?
So like I had mentioned earlier, it's mostly support, you know, for the speech and language, occupational therapy, really boosting their brain. You know, you can boost your brain through crossword puzzles, through solving things. So really, really boosting their brain, supporting them physically if they have any physical disabilities, working on complications to enable them to thrive, recognizing complications early and linking them to the different specialists. Like I said, pneumonia is a very, very big and upper respiratory tract infection. So treating those in time and just helping these children. If they have behavior problems, getting them to see a behavior specialist, a psychiatrist, and also offering support to the parents. The parents shouldn't be scared to reach out for help. You know, I have to say this, most times when you're struggling mentally, you appear weak, but parents shouldn't be scared to reach out for help that they need. If they're overwhelmed, they should reach out for help. They should get mental health support. They should get support from their relatives and friends, and they should talk about it. Do not shy away. The one thing that I forgot to mention is that these children with Down syndrome, sometimes people keep them in the house because they're scared of getting them out, and then they get very limited exposure to the sun, and they end up with other complications like vitamin D deficiency. So we do not want that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lucy. And we shall continue to have this conversation actually about Down syndrome. Where can you be found? And yeah, with the support you gave.
All right, so like I mentioned earlier, we have the Genetics and Immunology Clinic in Mulago National Referral Hospital, Ward 15, that runs every Wednesday. I'm also a pediatrician at Amani Children's Clinic in Nansana. So those who stay around Nansana can find me in Nansana, just opposite Pastor Gembe's Church.
Thank you.
In terms of parting shots, thank you so much for hosting me, and
thank you so much.
It's been an honor to be here.
Awesome. So we're going to have a break, but after this break, stay tuned because we shall be talking about the recently launched malaria vaccine. That break, and thank you so much for staying with us here on NTV Medical Matters. I am Viola Sasya, and right now on set we are joined by Emmanuel Ainebiona, who is the Public Relations Officer at the Ministry of Health, and we are going to be talking about the recently launched malaria vaccine. So without further ado, Dr. Ainebiona, welcome to the set. And what is this malaria vaccine and who is it targeting?
Thank you very much. I'm not a doctor, for your correction. Yes, we had the rollout of the malaria vaccine into our routine immunization. This is immunization normally given at our public and private health facilities. So the rollout of this vaccine was done in April in Apache district. and we are targeting mainly children who are under 5, who are the most affected by severe malaria. So because we hope that if we are able to vaccinate all children who are below 2 years, we'll be able to reduce those that die of severe malaria. So it will help us to ensure that children under 5 do not die, and also even if they get malaria, they will not get severe malaria, which has been causing them to die.
What areas are being targeted, but also for the adults, where then does that leave us?
No, the adults for now, they are not target. They are not part of the target for this vaccine. We are only targeting children who are below 2 years. And this vaccine is given in four shots, 4 doses, at 6 months, at 7, at 8, and also at 18 months. And that's why we are only looking at children. The adults not part of the target.
What is some of the feedback you've received from the few that have received these shots?
We've been moving around, and parents have embraced it because I've been able to move to the districts where this vaccine, like in Guru, in Masaka, where the rollout has been done, and parents are bringing their children, and we can only encourage the parents with children in that age group of 6 months to 18 months to ensure that their children are brought promptly for the dose of the vaccine, because it's one measure, once implemented with other malaria prevention and control measures, will be able to reduce the burden of malaria, which claims about 14 people daily. That is almost a taxi full of people. So if we can prevent it among the children who are under 2 years, then we'll be making progress in reducing malaria, which remains a leading cause of admission and death in the country.
How safe is the vaccine?
Yeah, the vaccine is very safe because it has undergone rigorous clinical trials and safety trials, and has been approved by the World Health Organization, and locally it was approved by the National Drug Authority. And prior to its introduction, it had earlier been piloted in countries like Malawi, Ghana, Kenya, South Sudan, and Cameroon, where about 800,000 children were vaccinated, and there were no major adverse effects. So the vaccine, I can say, is safe and effective.
Thank you very much. As we get off this set for the next show, quickly let us know what we could be doing wrong as a population that has caused malaria to be one of the leading killers in Uganda.
Yes, we need to use the insecticide bed nets very well in areas that have high prevalence of malaria. Like in Kampala, the good news is that the prevalence of malaria is almost below 1%. So you are at less risk of suffering from malaria while in Kampala. But if you go to areas of northern Uganda around Guru, Acholi, then you need to effectively sleep under a mosquito net. The mothers must ensure that once they are pregnant, they are given treatment to help them carry through the pregnancy. And also, we should not self-treat. So we need to ensure that when you feel feverish, you need to be tested and properly, when you're properly diagnosed, then you're also given appropriate treatment.
Thank you very much.
And all these interventions will help us to ensure that we reduce the burden of malaria.
We're actually going to have a whole episode on malaria, and we hope that you'll be kind enough to join us. So thank you very much for today's comments about the vaccine. But we are running out of time, and we shall leave you here. But make sure that you tune in again for our next episode, most likely on malaria or something else. But we are trying to make sure that we're on top of our health game. I am Viola Sasra, and you've been watching NTV Medical Matters, supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.